Everyone, welcome to 6 Minutes of Witchcraft with me, Laura Tempest Zakroff. And in this episode, I want to talk about something that will improve, hopefully, your event, festival, workshop experience. First, I'm going to set that timer for 6 minutes so I don't talk for an hour, as I warned everybody online. So that's started. And so in the Northern Hemisphere, festival season's kicking off. I just did a couple weeks ago Feast of Lights in Massachusetts from Earth Spirit, and just got back from PantheaCon, the very last PantheaCon in San Jose, California. And it was some things that happened at PantheaCon that kind of sparked a conversation on my personal Facebook page, as well as with many other presenters and attendees. And it really came down to etiquette, right? When is it appropriate to ask questions, to comment, how to participate in things? And so I thought I'd go through a nice little list of these simple things to keep in mind, what you're looking at and how to interact with them. And it's really important to understand that at any festival or conference, convention, is that often you have people who are coming from all over, from many different traditions, many levels, experiences, and some of them don't get to talk to other people about their experiences in person. They might come from a really conservative area. There might be nobody else in their neck of the woods. And so this is their opportunity to speak and talk to folks. And there's other issues as well, not necessarily issues, but everybody's coming from different places. So I think that's important to keep in mind. But time is limited at a conference. Like, it seems like, oh, you've got 3 or 4 days and there's all these things you can do, and it just stretches on forever, and then Sunday or Monday comes and it's done. And especially with many of the presentations that are happening, there's a limited amount of time. So it's how to use this time so not only does the entire class or the participants get the best of it, but also that the instructors or guides are able to give you as much information as possible to relay that. So first, I want to talk about a few different kinds of formats that you'll find at a conference or a lecture, festival, etc. And the first is kind of one of the most common, is a lecture. Right? So a lecture is generally you have someone speaking about what they're an expert in or discussing a certain topic. Might have a slideshow, might have puppets, but they are pretty much there to talk, and then there's usually some question and answer period. Then there's a panel where you might have 3 to 8, maybe, depending on the size of the event, of different participants, right, who are experts in their fields or coming from different backgrounds, who are all addressing a certain topic. Like at PaganaCon a couple of years ago, I was on a panel about shadow work with like 5 or 6 other different folks. And so there was a moderator who asked questions, and then everybody spoke in turn, and then it was time for the audience to also ask questions. So that's another format. There's a workshop. To me, a workshop is an experience that requires participants to participate in some way. So if I'm teaching a dance workshop, I'm going to expect people to do movement, and to participate to the best of their ability to move in that sort of way. And sigil witchery is technically a workshop. You participate in the crafting of the sigil. And so workshop, right? There's going to be a sense of that you participate as guided. Then we have roundtable. A roundtable discussion tends to be a more communal experience that maybe everybody or a certain group come together, have a caucus to discuss ideas, questions, and problems, and everybody gets to speak in turn depending on how that's defined. Not a lot of events have roundtables, but I really believe that more events should. It's the best way to really get your community talking right then and there, and it's really good, especially if it's towards the end of the event, so that people who, they can process what they've been experiencing and bring up issues. And then we have, for most pagan or witchy events, a ritual. And a ritual has some sort of guidelines set up, and the key thing with any ritual is making sure that the participants know what they're supposed to do, and that folks show up early on time to listen to the instructions so that they can participate to, again, the best of their ability. So those tend to be the most common. Obviously, there are concerts, and there are other sort of fun little things, and like clothing swaps, and my friend Alicia does kind of It's not pagan speed dating, pagan speed friending, so like all sorts of different kinds of participatory things. But specifically that I really want to talk about is comments versus questions in lectures and workshops and panels. So if you haven't taken any sort of class with me, pretty much from the beginning, 20 years ago plus, all the way through now, whether it's dance or witchcraft or art, I make it known that, first, turn off your cell phones. Second, that I do welcome and encourage questions, but please avoid doing the 500-word backstory. Nobody needs to know exactly where you're coming from, what's relevant, and make sure that is relevant and on topic to what's being discussed right there in that moment. And that has worked fairly well. I got a lot of compliments at PantheaCon about people saying, like, keeping things on track and keeping it going. I'm like, wow, that's just kind of standard how I do it. But the thing that I noticed, particularly at this last PantheaCon, and a lot of other people mentioned this as well in different workshops and classes, was the commenter. Now, again, I know that this is an event is one of those rare opportunities where you get to talk and speak and share things, but comments, nope, sorry timer, we gotta keep going on this. Comments are great if you share them with the presenter, perhaps after it. When you interrupt the teacher to give them your experience when no one else has asked for it, that is disruptive to the teaching process. And it also is kind of rude to your other participants. They are not necessarily there to hear another student talk unless it is a round table, unless it is some sort of discussion where that has been set up. Maybe it's a prompt where in the workshop it says, now everyone talk a little bit about this. That is a specific point. I do, part of the reason why I think it's important to say it's okay to ask questions is I know that I talk fast and I tend to pronounce things a little funny. It's from being from Philadelphia, New Jersey, perhaps, living in my head, all sorts of things. So if someone doesn't understand what I'm saying, I want to be able to give them the opportunity to say, hey, I didn't quite get that. Could you explain that a little better? Totally cool. But pay attention when you're in a workshop for when the teacher gives you also an opportunity. So there's the immediate sorry, didn't hear that. Could you repeat that, please? That I think is totally cool. And it's really important for me to make sure that you understand what I'm saying. But if you kind of interrupt when I'm starting to introduce a topic, I'm probably going to get there. And getting interrupted, especially, I'm sort of a very free form. I have I'm weaving a tapestry when I teach, which means I have all these different threads. And by the end of the workshop or the class or the lecture, everything will become a beautiful tapestry. But if you're like, hey, wait, you interrupt my process, you interrupt everybody else who's kind of listening. So watch for the times when the teacher says, does anyone have any questions about this? Or the instructor might say, please hold your questions until the end of class. It'll be a certain amount of time. It's really important at events like this where often, if given our leisure and opportunity, most of my workshops would be easily 2 to 3 hours, but I'm often fitting what I have to do in a 45-minute time slot or a 90-minute time slot, and that includes leaving time for questions. So I want to be able to give you all the information. Your fellow students want to receive all of the information. So kind of the best thing is if you need clarity and it's not really relevant to other people in the class, write it down. You can email, you can reach out on Facebook, on YouTube. I think part of what we're getting when people are interrupting more and more during workshops, which is what a lot of the other instructors I've been hearing from, is a sort of Facebook format where you're just like, oh, somebody posted this. I'm going to put my comment right on there right now. Comment. Answer me right away. I just messaged you 5 minutes ago. How come you haven't answered? There's a sort of immediacy that's kind of disrespectful. It's like if you really, I guess some people are doing it face to face, but if you really wouldn't do that face to face or wouldn't want it happening to you, kind of check that and see. So I think it's good to make note of, okay, am I raising my hand because I have a comment put the hand back down. Do I have a question that's incredibly relevant to what was saying so I can have clarity? Good. If it's not, maybe it's a tangent, but it's also sort of a question, save it to the end or talk to them on the side. Pretty cool, right? And in terms of other types of etiquette for rituals, there's a reason why a lot of rituals have closed doors is because they are containing space and they're setting things up. And if you come into a ritual 5-10 minutes after it started, you probably missed the instructions and what's going to happen, and you're going to interfere with the ambiance. That's not to say that you can't leave if necessary, and usually a really good ritual instructor, leader, guide will say, hey, if for any reason you need to leave, this is the door, or please exit the circle in this way, and that's cool. But you have to be there in time to pay attention, to listen, so that you know what's going on. So that's really important, and it's respectful to the teacher, to the fellow participants, for everything that's going on. So to kind of round that back up, all right, you're on an event, awesome. Share, meet other people, be mindful of your time, other people's time, what's going on. Keep an eye on the schedule. If you think you're going to do all 50 things that you've put on your schedule, good luck. Pick the top 3, pick the top 5 that you think you're going to attend per day, and try for that. You might get one. And show up early if you can. I know in some events, like, there's a limited amount of elevators, and so things take a little bit more time. So try to keep that in mind, especially for people who are going to take they need special access, some extra mobility issues to get into the space. Also, for those folks, please make room. If somebody has a wheelchair or walker, they need special seating, they're hard of hearing, allow them, please make space for them up front or wherever they feel comfortable. Don't be a jerk and, kind of hog the space or, put your stuff everywhere. Be mindful of your space as well. That's really important. So that's my quick, far more than 6 minutes in a nutshell, first thing to cover. So I look forward to seeing many of you at upcoming events. Like, there's so many on the schedule, and oh my God, it was so wonderful. I couldn't believe how many of you came up to me especially at PantheaCon, to tell me how much you enjoy these videos. So thank you. That means a lot. I get a little yay squeak. And I've got a whole other list of topics, so we'll see what else I can get done for you all today. Be sure to subscribe. You can share this, and if you have other questions or thoughts, you can leave them in the comment section. Isn't that great? Right? Thanks. Bye.